How's it going, everybody? Welcome to our first episode of Dealer Tips. My name is Smaldor, and this is my co-host over here, uh,
Wasabi.
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 Yeah,
Hot like wasabi when I bust rhymes.
and yeah, we're two people who have a lot of experience within the industry. I myself have around 12 years now, or so, and I'm not sure how much you got. I'm guessing you're closer to 20.
Over 20. Yeah.
You had to
Old.
have started then when you were 18. Were you at a place where 18 was okay?
No, 21.
Oh, right at 21.
I
Gotcha.
turned 21 in 2003 in August, and I went to dealer school in November.
Okay, okay. Do you remember this? Because I didn't join the industry till I was already close to 30 anyway. I was working plenty of other jobs, but I do remember going to, I lived in the Washington state at the time, and there was I was big into bowling at the time. This bowling alley literally had a back card room. You could like,
Legal or illegal?
I would assume legal because it had like a sign and everything, it was,
Oh,
and yeah, so there was like, I think it was actually just poker, but it was gambling inside the bowling alley, and it was only 18 and over because I was 18 at the time.
but poker's easier because you're not dealing with house money.
True,
So,
yeah, but I mean, just kind of. Anyway, we're already sidetracked. As soon as we started, guys. But yeah, that's a little bit of our knowledge here that we work in the table games department. So if you want to about slots, find somebody else. We're gonna give you fake information.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, basically what we really want to do with this show is really just like talk about things that maybe you guys don't necessarily understand from our end, and we can help you guys out. We're not here to like bash anything, but we just want to be upfront and more transparent about how the industry works. Um, anything from good players, how to be a good player, how to be a good dealer, on every side angle, which way, algorithmic geometry section, there you can think of. And since this is our first episode, just pulled up a bunch of stuff off of Chat GPT as to what you guys might want to hear. So maybe we can bust some myths about table
Yeah.
games.
AI Mythbusters.
We are the Table Games AI Mythbusters. We got the dealer tips. That would be the perfect time to then go straight into a sponsorship if we had any.
DraftKings.
Well, I don't know what the other ones are. I know DraftKings. You know what's crazy? Before DraftKings got big with like sports betting, it was actually first big with esports.
Mm.
It started with esports and then got into like major sports, and then it dropped esports, I think. But anyway, so player's perspective. What is a when a player comes to the casino, should they really be worried about when they sit down at a table if the dealer's going to like them or not? Is that really going to affect the outcome of the game that they're playing? Will that really affect their enjoyment of the game if their perception of the dealer is negative or positive? What do you think?
Enjoyment, yes. Outcome, no. In fact, we actually kind of always joke, and this is not true. It is just a joke that the more we like players, the worse it is. Like we take their money.
Yeah,
But it's
this
not
is very
true.
true.
I just think we notice it more maybe. But your enjoyment on the table, absolutely. The dealer is going to affect that. The outcome we have no control over. So even if we like you and we would love to give you tons and tons of money, we don't have any control over that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where we hear it all the time, and whether it's the players are joking about it, and I'm sure the majority of them actually are just making a joke because they think it's funny, but we've heard it a billion times. Of like, oh come on, dealer, you could have did this, made me win, hit the button or whatever. Come on, floorman, just hit the button in the back, let me win. Well, all this kind of stuff because we have no control over anything. you know
The worst one. The worst one. I'm a really good tipper if I win.
Yep. You know. And then right after that is like I tip at the end. I tip when I leave.
Yeah.
You know.
Anybody who says that they're a really good tipper if they win is a horrible tipper,
Yeah. So that's a tip.
usually.
That's a tip for you guys when you go to
Hmm.
the tables. Don't even say or tell your dealer that you're a great tipper. If you are a great tipper, just prove it by tipping. You know,
That's how I say, yeah.
you don't need to be like, I really tip, or whatever,
Hmm.
And it's like, if you are losing, we understand if you're not going to tip us. I'm no dealer's going to expect you. I'm like, man, I just took them for 20,000. Where's my tip? Like, of course, we don't think that either. So, but yeah, I would definitely agree that like having a dealer that like maybe has like bad vibes or a bad energy definitely can affect your experience in terms of enjoyment. We've definitely know people like that.
Hmm.
But the outcome will not change whatsoever. A dealer honestly has no control over what's going to happen, unless they make mistakes, which that could happen. Happened a
Or
lot.
we would be unemployed. So,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Or well, maybe not. Uh, depending on where you work, you may not be unemployed. You may still have a job. Uh, all right, let's just go down and rapid fire, sort of. You know, keeping along the same lines of this, of like a player interaction with a dealer, like as a, dealer player enjoyment and all of that. Um, as a player and as a dealer, what kind of interactions do you like the most? Do you like having an interaction with somebody who's actually, let's go to make it easier. As a player, when you go to sit down, people want different things, right? You're gonna have people that they want to come because they just want to sit down, play, and their objective is to win. But then you have the majority of people, they come down, they just want to have fun. So what they generally want from a dealer is somebody who's I don't know. Somebody told me this a while back. And like a dealer is almost kind of like a bartender in a sense of like you just kind of like got to be able to just read the person and just kind of talk to the person as to how they want to have an interaction with you, kind of thing. Um, what do you think is the best? As like experienced as we are, would you want a dealer who's very educational and helps you play? Do you want a dealer who's fun, humorous, and very lively, or do you want a robot?
well, nobody wants a robot. You know what? Actually, I shouldn't say that because there are some people who come in, this is kind of a early morning thing I've found. Doesn't really happen at night when you get the bar crowds and stuff. But you get some regulars that just come in and they want to sit down and they want a quiet game and they just want to play blackjack and that's that. And everybody has a story. You don't know what's going on in their lives, and maybe they just want a nice, relaxing game. They don't want to sit there and talk to you all day. Um, some people come in and they want to talk your ear off, and some people come in and they, like you said, want to win, and they're angry and because they're not winning, and so you have to kind of somehow find a way to appease them. So I don't know. I think as a dealer, you got to be a chameleon. I like a table that just is more focused on being silly and fun and having a good time. I think the casino is an entertainment industry, and that's what it should be.
Hard agree. Definitely agree with that. Um, for me, as a dealer, though, like I was, where I was trained at, and I was always told that a great dealer has excellent mechanical skills, but also has excellent people skills. But if you could only be good at one, it's better to just have the mechanical skill. um, so that's like part of the reason why I felt like I was always such a really good mechanical dealer because I just focused super hard on that because I didn't really worry about anything else. And then the people skill stuff came later once I knew I was already a very good dealer. But then we have some dealers that definitely stay robot mode. And then, yeah, you got the players that are like, this is no fun. So then they go somewhere else, even if they're winning. I've seen that. Like a player sits down at a table, dealer's just deadpan face, especially if they got a mask on or whatever. Doesn't say a word, and they're paying out, but they're not having fun, so they just leave. you know.
Yeah.
Whereas then there's vice versa. I mean, you could, like I'm sure you've had tables, players and stuff where like, I mean, you're killing them, but you're also getting, making sure they're all having a great time, having an excellent night or whatever. And so they keep playing and they just keep buying in. They're like, you know what? I'm going to lose money. I'm going to lose it to you, because it's
That
fun.
that and if you're doing it right, they don't even notice that they're getting
Yeah.
killed
They don't even notice.
until it's all gone.
They're like, wait a minute. I'm
They're
down,
like, well, yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen to you guys. Be sure to gamble responsibly. Make sure, as a tip, and I know plenty of people who do this, is that you don't take any of your cards to the casino. Don't take a credit card, debit card, or any way that you can pull money out of an ATM machine. Leave it at home. Just bring a set amount of money that you're willing to lose, and just play with that only. Because
And
otherwise,
I tell myself it's gone. So
yeah, just assume that money is gone before you've even spent it. And if for
it's like you're
whatever
going to
reason that you win and you leave a winner, amazing, right? That's just like icing on the cake. Awesome. But don't expect that to happen every time.
Mhm.
Alrighty. More stuff like within the dealer realm, and this one popped up as a myth. Is there such things in the casino industry of a cold dealer, rig shoes, dice setting, really bad juju dealers, and like things like that?
uh rigging, no, the casino doesn't need to cheat. I say it all the time. One of my analogies I remember I tried to explain to somebody because most people know about sports, right? And we're like, well, let's say we're going to have a 3-point shooting contest. And I tell you, we're each going to have a minute, whatever. But my hoop is going to be 20% bigger than yours, right? So, yeah, the odds are better that I'm going to win. But you know that. I've told you that, and if you're still going to go against me, then, I mean, you could still beat me. I could just make horrible shots the whole time. But that's kind of how gambling is. You have to know the odds are against you, and you have to take that risk, and you're going to play anyways. But the casino doesn't need to cheat for those odds to be there. They're just always there. Juju, no. I mean, some people say that, but it's not true. I always tell people Jesus Christ himself could descend from the heavens and that card is still going to be what it is. That dice is still going to land on what it landed on. That's just the way it is. It doesn't, my attitude doesn't matter. Your attitude doesn't matter. There's no jinxes or hexes or, uh, you know, juju.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about earlier, basically, of like, you may have, a bad experience in terms of your enjoyment, but the game itself is not going to change. It's, if you're winning, you're winning, you're losing, you're losing. It's the same. Doesn't matter if you got a bad juju dealer or not.
I think people just always try to find reason. And
Yeah.
I think it's human nature to try to assign blame to something, and it just,
And it can't be
they can't,
you. It can't
yeah,
be
they
the
just
self.
can't. Some people cannot accept that they played a game of chance and lost, you know.
Yeah. What about like bringing in a cleaner dealer or whatever, something like that? A dealer because the table's winning a lot, and you bring in somebody to try to clean them out.
Same thing as I said before. The cards are loaded in the shoe. That's it. You're going to pull the same cards as I am, as the next person's going to pull, as the next person. They're in that order. A dealer can't come in and magically change what's already going to happen. I will say, though, that sometimes it may temporarily change, but that's just a fluke, Or a lot of people say, "Oh, you do XXX different than the other dealer," or whatever. It doesn't change anything. We're putting the cards in the shuffler. We're loading them into a shoe. It is what it is. We don't have any control over it. You
But
know,
what if it's a hand shuffle?
if it's a hand shot, If it's a hand shuffle, I mean, maybe dealers like I have a pretty tight shuffle, and there might be a dealer with a pretty sloppy loose shuffle, and maybe that could change the cards a little bit. But it's not intentional. It's just how I shuffle versus how somebody else shuffles. You know.
Yeah,
So,
and maybe the tight shuffle is actually more in your favor, and the sloppier shuffle is actually what's going to kill you more. You don't
mhm.
know, right? So
But and there's also no guarantee. Like for small door shuffle, I'll say it like small door shuffle is a little bit different than wasabi's, you know. So we're gonna send him in there, but there's no guarantee you're gonna do anything different than I did. You know, you might continue going in and giving money, and you know you might not, and that's just the way it is.
yep,
There's the dealers back in the day that were the cleaners were cheating, but they don't do that anymore.
yeah. I was going to bring that up because I do know that that was kind of like a thing back in the day, but yeah, it was definitely when during a time where cheating did exist. Um,
But mobs run the casino, so
yeah. Nowadays it's a different type of situation, but there's no cheating.
well, and a lot of times, way back in these days, the casino kind of cheated to offset the players cheating. So you know,
Yeah, because they didn't have a lot of ways to counteract players that cheated. Yeah, because if you really think about it, every game is designed with a house edge, and if thousands upon tens of thousands, millions, I'm sure, of hands that are dealt throughout a day in all these games, the house is just going to win just by the nature of the game. They don't have to do any kind of cheating whatsoever. And of course, there's always going to be the outliers that exist. You know, somebody just happens to get on a lucky streak. Sure, it happens.
anybody that goes on a lucky streak, though, it will end.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I tell people is the casino's advantage is over time. You know, it's not something that happens and we don't just boom, we win every single time. That's it. It's done. Even if I give somebody $1,000 right off the bat, the longer they stay there, eventually gonna give it back. You cannot win forever. It's the nature of the game.
Yep, and that's something to keep in mind if you are a player. Just keep in mind, like we've already said, assume your money's gone when you go to play, and if you do win, you can't keep winning. So
Yeah.
just
Hit and run.
yes. We always kind of like,
It's
not everybody, I guess, but I generally commend players. I'm like, if they come down, sit down, like $100, and they like, within 10 minutes they've like tripled their money, and they're like, you know what, I'm done, I'm gonna leave, and they actually leave. I'm like, good job, because
yeah.
most people will not do that. you know.
I mean, even if you triple your money and you're like, well, I'm gonna put double of it away and play what I originally planned on playing when I came here, then yeah. I mean, I know it's hard to leave sometimes when you just get there,
Yeah,
but
I've always said that that's like one of the worst things that could happen. And well, there's different levels of this, but like, the first time you ever go gamble in your life and you win is like one of the worst things that could possibly happen to you. And then if you just go to the casino, even if you're, already an experienced, player, but if you win big within like your first 10 minutes of being there, yeah, you're not going to have a good night. Statistically speaking.
I used to always say winning is worse than losing.
Yep. Like,
First time you go to the casino or the first couple times, especially if you win something big, you think, oh, that was easy. Just go back and
yep,
do it again.
can keep doing it again. I can't lose.
Yeah, it's the exception and not the rule. So always remember that.
Yeah, I always like if I'm going out, my preferred way, this is assuming I don't actually win, is to pretty much break even by the end of the night. If I could break even after like a night out, that's a win to me because then that's, roughly free entertainment, free good time, kind of thing. And that's
And
a little more realistic than just losing every time or winning every time. I feel like breaking even is not bad.
yeah, and a lot of people are not okay with that. And I'm like, why? I'm thrilled if I broke even.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. You know. Okay, let's go on to our next topic, and I don't know where it went. It was literally looking at me right in the face. Oh,
what did you do, Chat GPT?
oh no, that's right here. Okay, so this is a little bit more on for us as people on the inside. how do dealers, so like for anybody who's listening who might be a prospective dealer, somebody who wants to get into the industry, this is, well, we'll talk about games and stuff later, but this one is more of like, how do we read players in terms of like body language? How do we spot advantage players? How do we spot somebody who maybe is like signs of like, oh, maybe they had a little bit too much to drink, or maybe they're being a little too aggressive. I know for us these are like really obvious things, but for a lot of people that probably isn't. How would you describe that for somebody who's not experienced?
So for a not experienced dealer, I would say don't worry about advantage players. Um, you need to deal for a while before um, you'll start to recognize things that are off. So the longer you deal, the more familiar you will become with how people play, and you'll start to notice things that you're like, that didn't seem right. Like, it's so rare somebody's going to hit a hard 17, and usually they're drunk and stupid and don't know what they're doing. But you get a regular player comes in, seems competent, knows what he's doing, is taking these weird hits or doubling down when they shouldn't. You'll notice things like that. It just, it'll seem off to you. But when you're inexperienced and you're new, I wouldn't worry about it. Um, your floor might be watching or your surveillance will watch or whatever. Just worry about your game more.
Yeah.
And what was
If
the
you
other
see
what was the other part?
somebody, I was gonna say though, yeah, if you see somebody like hitting a hard 17 and not busting after they're doing it like multiple times in a row, then you might have there might be something
Mhm.
going on there.
But even then, as a rookie dealer, you're not going to know how to count the cards.
Yep.
You're not going to really have a feel for that.
And a lot of
I've been
experienced dealers don't know either.
I was going to say I've been dealing a long time, and even now sometimes you know I'm like trying to think like, oh, did a lot of big cards come out? Did a lot of small cards come out?
Well, the thing is
But
too, like when you're counting the cards, like if you're not paying attention from the beginning,
mhm.
it's very easy to like, well, all right, well, this time I have no idea what it is for this shoe or whatever. So at that point,
Yeah.
you can't
Well,
really keep track.
I will say another thing that kind of tips you off is you'll have somebody who's sitting there playing table minimum, $25 a hand, $25, $25, $25. All of a sudden they bet $750 and they catch a blackjack. And you're like,
Yep.
that person was definitely counting tens and aces. And that'll kind of tip you off. It's just anything that becomes out of the ordinary.
Yeah, that's really what
It's
it is. Because yeah, that's the other way to really start catching somebody. If because obviously we can't be counting the cards the whole time. That's impossible while we're also dealing. It's just noticing very obscure bet spreads.
yeah.
But again, as a new dealer, don't even worry about it. That's just way too much information for you to be thinking about. Just make all you need to be doing is just dealing your game. That's it.
And even if you do suspect anything, you just tell your floor or, you know, don't concern yourself too much with it, trying to figure out what's going on. You need to be dealing your game, pay attention to that. And, you have a floor and you have surveillance to figure out what's going on. You just tell the floor, hey, I noticed this. It was an irregularity. It happened, two or three times. They jumped their bet, caught a blackjack, whatever, and move on.
And if you are going to tell your floor, you probably want to wait till you go to break,
Hmm.
not call them over to the table and be like, "Hey, so player on spot 3 right there, that guy, yeah, I think he's cheating." Don't do that.
The only time you want to do that, I actually had this happen the other night, was I had a guy who I dealt out the cards and he had a 20 and I'm paying my bonus bets and I look over and he had $200 on there and he's placing money on top of his bet. And I just saw it out of the corner of my eye and I come over there and I look over and all of a sudden there's $600 there and I'm like, wait, you only had a $200 bet. And I'm like, how did, and he's like, oh, I can't add money to my bet. And I'm like, yeah. So, I called the floor over and I said, hey, this guy's trying to cap his bet and I caught him. And you'll want to tell the floor instantly when something like that happens because they want surveillance's eyes on him
Yeah. So
or
any
they need
kind
to
of like
kick him out.
cheating like that type of cheating or whatever, somebody just trying to like add more money to their bet or capping their bet or pinching their bet, taking money off. That's something, yeah, you want to call immediately. But if you're
Well,
suspecting somebody's just an advantage player, yeah, I wouldn't.
well, that's a much harder to prove too.
Yeah,
So, and plus,
it's
that
technically
was a
not illegal, so
yeah, that was a $400 swing that guy tried to put on his bet. So,
man, I didn't know about that. That's kind of crazy. Somebody
hmm
trying to do that, so stupid.
yeah, caught him twice.
Don't be one of those people, guys. Okay. The other things that I was saying, that's in this thing about ways to like spot an advantage player, but it's also talking about somebody who maybe you think is a little too drunk to be playing, or somebody who's being a little too aggressive verbally or something, either with the dealer yourself or another guest. And what do you do?
This is a point of contention with me because it it used to be a much different world, and there was zero tolerance. If you were because I actually started out, we actually had two lounge hosts, and their whole entire job was just to come ut people off. I would just pick up the phone, call them, and say, "Hey, come cut these people off." No questions asked. They would come over and cut them off. Or if I noticed they were starting to like get a little aggressive toward my dealers, they would take them off the table. And you could start to tell it's the same. It's funny because it's like an advantage player, but drinking. If they're drunk, they get pretty aggressive with their bets. They just start slamming it out there because they're drunk and they're brave. They're slurring their words. They're dropping their chips everywhere, fumbling around. They can't follow the rules. They're handing stuff off to their friends and talking to everybody. You know, I mean, you could just tell. And it's time for they let it go lot more now. I notice they're very lenient with it, but they used to take it very seriously because um, you don't want that. You don't want to take people's money that way.
Yeah. And if you work somewhere that actually has a good training program, they should also train you on um, alcohol alcohol awareness, essentially,
Mhm.
and being able to spot somebody who's had too much, even if it maybe they're like kind of borderline. I think that's generally where people probably have the most difficulty. It's pretty obvious if somebody's just stumbling and falling on the ground. Okay, yeah, they had too much to drink. Versus somebody who's maybe just had like two sips too many, and then like just put them over. It could be a little harder to tell. Um, but in most cases, if you're the dealer, you just call your supervisor, and it should be their job at that point to really deal with it. And more than likely, they're going to call somebody else that to deal with it, whether it's security or maybe somebody within the beverage department. But as a dealer, you just need to be able to identify it and just let somebody know. Because the last
Yeah.
thing you really want to do is be like, "Hey, you've had too much to drink." I feel like that's not a good thing to be telling a player that they need to stop drinking.
You could also like there have been times where the waitress comes over and they order another drink and I just give the waitress the look. Like I will not. I'm just staring dead in the face like don't do it. Or I'll be like, just make a little something because um the person who knows more than anyone is the dealer. It's kind of like you said earlier, where the dealer is the bartender. The
Mm-hmm.
person who knows more than anyone how much that person has had to drink and how drunk they are and how drunk they're acting is the dealer. Because they could be served by more than one cocktail waitress. They could get up and go to the bar. They can get a drink from their friend. So the floor isn't going to see all that. The cocktail waitress might not know that the other cocktail waitress served him a drink, or they went to the bar. The dealer knows. We have been sitting there for an hour and 20 minutes watching everything that's happening
Yep.
and we see their behavior change over time. There used to be a lot more trust in dealers where, if my dealer said, "Hey, this guy's drunk," that was it. I knew they were drunk because my dealer was looking at it the whole time. My dealer saw everything that had happened. Now I think they evaluate them a little too much. It goes too far up the chain.
Yeah.
You get somebody that comes over and watches them for 2 minutes and goes, "Oh, they're fine," and you're like,
Yeah. No. They're
"Okay."
probably not fine.
Yeah,
Uh.
but I would still definitely raise the alarm
Oh yeah.
and let somebody know. And like I said, you could even the cocktail waitresses are generally pretty respectful, where if they catch the signal, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, no more," you know.
Yeah, this was actually
So,
maybe less than a month ago, a couple weeks ago. I was in our high limit room, and yeah, there was a group of people that I had to let the waitress know that, you know, kind of covertly that no more drinks because it was the new server came in for their shift change. Because I've always, I mean, I guess it makes sense to have different departments have their shifts at different times, so there's always overlap. I guess I don't know, but I guess the new waitress didn't know that they've already had so much to drink, you know.
mhm.
So basically, let her
That's a
know, you know.
it's it's a liability too. That person can hurt themselves. That person
Mm-hmm.
can leave and get behind the wheel and go kill someone, and you know, um, so
Yeah,
you got
I
to
know.
keep
I
balance with
I
the table.
talked to the waitress like a little bit after the players had left, and she's basically just told me, she's like, I got the message, you know, I just pretended to go make him drinks and just never made the drinks.
Hmm.
Because a lot of the times, once they're drunk, that drunk, they ain't gonna, you know, it's pretty often that they'll just completely forget about it. They'll forget that they even ordered or anything like that. Um, I know I've seen some waitresses, what they'll do is that, you know, they'll order the drinks, and then they'll just come back and bring them water and give them their money back. I've seen that, but I feel like to do that, they gotta kind of have a little bit of rapport with the player.
And even if they're on the edge, because there are some times where they're on the edge, um, you could tell the waitress, like give them 30, 40 minutes before you give them another drink.
Yeah, just slow it down a bit.
You could slow them down too.
Yeah, and as a dealer, you're gonna know most of your players. You know, obviously you're gonna have new people come in all the time, especially on like weekends, holidays, and things like that. But you're gonna have a lot of regulars. You're gonna know too, unless you're like working during a time where there's no drinks, I guess. But over here in where we work, there's an entire shift that's mostly you can't drink. But
Hmm.
I know in other states, there's a lot more drinking allowed.
We
Yeah,
should say can't legally drink,
yeah, we'll say that.
because I think they
Because there
they
are some
still
people they'll go to the
sneak a
parking
few.
lot and you
Mm.
know they might they'll come back. But yeah, we know a particular player that will tell people like, hey, I got I got all this in my car, and they leave for 20 minutes and they come back and they're wasted as hell.
Bar in the car.
Yes. Uh,
And I will say, as a player, if you are intoxicated, you should respect the decision if you've been declined the service of alcohol, because we do it for you as well.
yeah.
It's not like you're sitting in a bar where you can't do much damage. You get tipsy, you get brave, you start shooting thousands of dollars you can't afford. It makes you do things you wouldn't normally do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's both because it's against the law to serve an intoxicated person, but also to protect you and us. So it's not like we just go back and be like, hey, we don't like that guy. We're not giving him any more alcohol.
Yeah. It's
Protects everybody involved.
not personal at all. We're it's
Hmm.
all to help everyone. You know, we just want to make sure
Yeah.
everybody's having a good time. You know, so um, and I guess pretty much all of this stuff that we just talked about pretty much would be the same thing, more or less, when it's referring to not somebody who's drunk, but just somebody who's very aggressive and potentially getting violent. Um, Pretty much the same thing for the most part, I guess. Kind of like a same line of thinking. Uh, that's why we also have security. But you know, what would you
Hmm.
say? And anything really different in terms of an approach?
For somebody that's getting aggressive,
Yeah.
uh, you need to immediately call your floor, immediately. And that's one thing I have no problem calling someone out. Um, you know, I I've done it before. I've called the floor over and been like, "Hey, this guy right here is getting a little froggy. He's saying XXX. He's using XXX language, because it needs to be handled, and I have no problem shaming him." And half the time, the other players will be like, "Yeah, this guy's crazy. Get him out of here," because it's bad for everybody involved. Players don't want to sit on a table like that. You know, they don't
Yeah.
want to sit. at a table trying to play a game and have fun when somebody's verbally abusing the dealers, and there are times when they will. Uh, I mean, it seems like it might get physical, and there have been times when players have thrown things at the dealer, spit on the dealer, do whatever. So I always call the floor because you don't know how far somebody might take it.
Yeah. It's definitely something I know I was saying is like pretty much kind of, same line of thinking as like the alcohol thing, but it's definitely more escalated in the sense of like it does need to be handled immediately.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, because you never know. Like somebody could just be very verbally aggressive, and it could be pretty bad, even though they may have no intention of ever getting like actually physical. We don't know that. The other players don't know that, and it could be very disruptive. Um, so as a dealer, just call your supervisor immediately. For the most part, your supervisor probably should be calling security right away as well, and then doing their best to mediate the situation until security arrives. Um,
And do not engage.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like
Don't
as a dealer,
engage.
do not engage. Just call your
Do
floor.
not give them what they want. I just call my floor over. I mean, and I say, yeah, I point them out. Like I try and be discreet, but I also want them to know, like, be acutely aware that their behavior has been noticed and now something is being done about it.
Yeah, been fortunate that haven't had too many situations personally. Well, as a dealer, I've had it a couple times.
It happens.
There was a time, this was years ago. Guy literally pulled out a knife on the table on me. That was, this is when metal detectors weren't a thing. Guy had a backpack dealing a blackjack game. He was the only guy on the table, too. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. I'm the kind of person like I don't get scared about any of that kind of stuff. If he pulled a gun, maybe I'd be a little more scared. But he pulled a knife, and it's just like you can't reach me, dude. So I'm just
But
like, I call my
that's why I'm
floor right
saying
away,
is
but it's like,
you don't know. That's why I always tell people, or my supervisors or shift managers or something, when I've said something about a player and they seem to think it's harmless, and I tell it's harmless until it's not. You don't know how. Like, does somebody have to get shot and killed or stabbed, or does somebody have to get hit with a beer bottle? Like, at what point, you know? So any little thing like that, if somebody starts getting aggressive or threatening, or it should be dealt with immediately because you have no idea how far somebody could take it.
yeah. And this kind of all comes encompassing of like, the casino is a place for the all intents and purposes is a place of entertainment, which we've mentioned before. It's a place for fun, people to have fun, to entertain them, for self entertainment, everyone's entertainment. We don't need, there's no place for overly drunken people. There's no place for, any form of violence or, aggressive behavior, because that just kills all of the what am I looking for? Like the good vibes, the any good times that people are having, it's just gone, and that's no good for anybody.
hmm When I was a floor and a pit boss shift manager, I was zero tolerance. I didn't stand for it at all.
Yeah, but
It's not
as you
good for the
said,
dealers. It's not good for the players either. It's just not an environment you want to be in.
yeah,
Imagine eating in a restaurant, and some guy's yelling and screaming and like pushing the waitress. Like, you don't want to eat there. You're not going to go back there. So you can't do it in a casino either. You're in a public place.
yeah, but as you mentioned, times have changed, so maybe you can. All right, next topic.
I think the casinos have gotten to this weird place of uh, money talks a lot more than it used to be. I mean, I've always tried to explain the rationale that people are addicted to gambling. They're not addicted to calling the dealer bad names, you know? So
Yeah,
even if you kick them out, they're going to yell, they're going to scream, they're going to cry, they're going to, I'm never coming back here again. Fuck this place. But they're going to come back because they're gambling addicts, or they're bored or whatever reason it is, you know? And they're going to, it might change their attitude a little bit. It's like taking away a kid's favorite toy. So everybody I ever kicked out yelled and screamed at me and got angry and said, I'm never coming back here. And probably 4 out of 5 of them came back.
yeah,
So,
And I think that's why a lot of places do like, we'll kick you out for, you know, 24 hours, because maybe, we don't want to overreact and you're just having a really bad night. There's could be stuff going on in your personal life, which obviously then you shouldn't be gambling, but, you're already there, so we get that. So we'll give you another chance, you
oh,
know.
absolutely. I had steps. Like the first time, I just have the lounge host take you off the game. You can go yell at a slot machine. Doesn't hurt their feelings. You can kick it, whatever you want to do. So it was just you can't play tables for us. And if I had to kick you out again, then we're talking about getting barred from the casino. It'd be like 72-hour ban or a week ban.
Yeah.
Still can't behave. We're gonna give you a year ban.
Yep. There's always steps to it,
Hmm.
part of it, is like, we want to make sure that these players can, have, the redemption arc, but also, they want your money.
It's like dealing.
Uh,
They're like children. They're like dealing with children.
it's literally what it is.
Yeah, punish them. You put
How
it, you
much the
put them in
casino?
timeout first, and then you ground them. That's how it works.
This is like the weirdest segue, but we're talking about children. We're talking about the casino, and I'm thinking in my mind immediately went to how popular it is right now for people to talk about how like in a hospital, nurses and doctors are like the most sluttiest, uh, intermingling type of people that exist in any industry. And I'm like, I don't know, man. The casino industry.
Somebody's been watching too much Grey's Anatomy.
I've never seen an episode of Grey's Anatomy in my life. Okay.
No, I'm just saying whoever said that because that is what happens on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
It's like they can't be single in that show. They just all break up with one
But
another
see, here's the thing.
all at once.
I have multiple friends who are nurses. I actually have a couple friends who are doctors and everything. They work in hospitals, and they're like, it's legitimately like that at work. Like they've literally caught people like, having sex in a closet and stuff like that, and all the time. And I will say, I do believe, and I know this is obviously a massive tangent, really, but it also relates to our industry and why I think it's also very prevalent for us, is because these industries, people are working really weird hours that isn't, I guess, societal normal hours. And so nobody else really understands. So these are the people that you're going to interact with consistently on a very regular basis. So you're seeing them, you're around them all the time. It just happens, I think.
Well, I think in the medical profession too, especially in hospitals with doctors and stuff, it's the amount of hours they work. You
Yep.
don't have downtime. That's where you are. You're at work. You're at
Yep.
home
Yep.
asleep.
You're just like, oh, I
So
got the urge, got to go. Yeah.
yeah, people that work that do not work the day shift, the swing shift and the graveyard people, you can't go out on the weekends. We're working weekends and holidays and that kind of thing. So
That's why
um,
it's everyone's dream to, not everyone, but most people want to work the day shift because you have close enough to normal people hours. Not quite normal, but it's pretty close.
it's still hard to get normal people days off though.
Oh yeah. Although I have come to the realization I don't think I ever want like Saturday, Sunday off. If I was on the daytime shift, I don't think I would want that off because as I've been having issues, like trying to get my car fixed. If I had weekends off, that's also just really bad. If I'm daytime and weekends off, I'm working during business hours. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. Friday, Saturday, so always my dream days off. Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, how do you go to like the DMV or get your hair? Well, I guess haircut places are open on Saturdays, but
Yeah, that's
there's a
why.
lot of things you can't do on the weekends.
Yeah, and banks, they literally had to make banks open on Saturdays at least for a limited time because specifically for this reason. Because people work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Guess when banks are open? 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. How the hell do you go to the bank? Okay, I guess we're gonna make banks open now. Yeah, but I mean, you can't go to the ATM if you need to open up an account or if you have, any other things
Well,
you got to do.
yeah, you can do that online now, but
Well, yeah, but there. There was reasons why things existed for
Mhm.
the way they did it.
Old school people, they like it the old school way.
Yeah. All right. Now, I have
Now
my
that we got
old.
the sex, drugs, and rock and roll out of the way.
Damn right. If you guys have any more questions about that kind of stuff, comments down below. Okay.
Nothing about it.
I unfortunately know too much about it. All right.
No.
Yeah. Anyways, I found I guess I still have I was asking yes, I use Grok sometimes too because it's faster than ChatGPT. So on my Grok thing I actually still have a list of a bunch of stuff that I've asked before on things. So,
Wait, hold on 1 second. Would that be a dealer tip? Don't lend whores money. Dealer tip: do not lend whores money.
I mean, are we talking table games dealers or are we talking different kind of dealers? Or all dealers? I guess
Um,
it might
oh,
work in every situation.
yeah.
How
Don't
about
lend gambling addicts money. Don't lend people money.
yeah, I was going to say let's just generalize it. Don't lend people money. I learned the very hard truth of if you're gonna lend someone money, instead just rephrase everything. If you're gonna be this dumb, just rephrase it in your head that you're just gonna give them the money, not loan them the money.
Either that or get proof every step of the way. Text them. That $1,000 I gave you, you got to pay me back. Make sure this proof. Then you can sue them. But
Yeah, even then it's still kind of gray, difficult. I
I would
think.
say don't lend coworkers money. Maybe that's, and especially not a customer. That's I knew some dealers who would lend the customers money because they felt bad. They had taken all their money, and these people are addicts. So,
Don't ever do that.
prob- yeah, probably not getting the money back.
But I would just say don't ever lend anybody money ever, not even family.
Mhm. But especially not whores.
Yeah, especially not whores.
Mm.
That's the
Okay,
number one.
dealer tip:
Yes.
don't lend
Primary
whores.
tip, guys.
Don't lend whores with gambling problems money.
Yes.
You'll never see it again.
Yep. You will never see it again.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, who are we talking about? Anyway.
We're talking about 6 or 7 people at our property.
And not just our property. Um,
Yeah.
all right. Let's
Oh,
shift things more as dealer tips as the title of this pod talk cast show, whatever you want to call it, is going as. Prospective dealers, as we were talking about as well, from how to identify things from players and stuff like that. Um, very basic stuff. If they have to, games that they need to learn, what would be the 3 games that they should learn, and how should they go about learning these kind of learning the games in an efficient way so they can audition, because that's how you get jobs as a dealer, is that you have to audition for the position, um, so they can get their job. What would you say are like the 3 strongest games, and how
besides
to go?
blackjack? Like including blackjack or besides blackjack? I mean,
Hey,
blackjack shouldn't count because you have to know it. That's what it is.
99% of the places, yes. Although
Yeah.
I have been seeing a lot of places that they don't do blackjack.
Well,
Um,
I'm just gonna say you have to know blackjack. That's just um, if you look at our even our property, most of the tables are blackjack because you're. I mean, there's a reason it's called blackjack dealer. So blackjack, yes, you have to know. Um, uh, if you want to make yourself really useful, you should learn baccarat or pai gow. Really, I mean, the carnival games you can learn so quickly in a day, and the casinos usually offer them. So, but if you're gonna learn Pai Gow, I would say learn a carnival poker game first to kind of get the gist of poker hands and see how poker games work. Or if you're gonna learn uh, Baccarat, that'd be a good game. It's a pretty straightforward game to learn.
And of note, we are referring to Pai Gow Poker, not Pai
Pai
Gow
Gow poker,
Tiles,
yes, tiles.
which is a game you
Do
can
not,
learn, but it's not offered in many places. Or,
yeah,
or if it is, it's generally a more
but
niche
it's
game.
yeah, and they're like most properties do not even have that many Pai Gow tiles tables, so they pretty much already have their tiles dealers. Um, so I would say blackjack is an absolute must. You have to know it. Um, I would probably learn baccarat just because there's more baccarat games generally in a casino. If you make it up to, because you could deal high limit eventually too, if once you get really good at it. Probably some carnival games and then Pai Gow. Don't worry about craps and roulette. They're far too advanced. You'll never learn it on your own. Um, Pai Gow probably a little more difficult than Baccarat, so that's probably why I would say Baccarat first. Plus, if you're gonna learn Pai Gow, you're not gonna know that property's house way. Baccarat is the same everywhere.
Yeah, might have some slight procedure differences since we learned from some of our coworkers, but for the most part, yeah, baccarat's the same everywhere in the world, just as general blackjack rules are the same everywhere in the world. You're gonna have some differences with side bets and things like that, of course, but
Yeah.
hopefully, those are generally very simple and things you can learn on the fly, if anything. Um, but yeah, when it comes to Pai Gow poker, I would say like if you don't know anything about poker or poker hands at all, yeah, baccarat is definitely the would be the easiest game to learn. It's honestly easier than blackjack, I would say. It's just it gets more difficult when we're talking commission baccarat or not, because I feel like just that alone is a huge difficulty curve between commission or non-commission, especially for a lot of dealers. Um, but if you do know poker and you know poker hands inside and out, I personally would say I don't think you need to know any carnival games. I think you can learn Pai Gow on your own, and then you would just have to know that property's houseway. And if you're going there to audition, they're not going to expect you to know what their houseway is. They're going to have to tell you what it is and work with you on that because there's no way you can know what it is. So I would agree. Those are like the two other games I would definitely say for sure. Baccarat and Pai Gow poker. Too bad
If
we don't have more
if
sick
you
bow
can,
over here, but that'd be fun.
yeah, no sick bow here, unfortunately.
I actually have no idea. I've never dealt the game, so it may actually suck
I've
to
never
deal
seen the game.
it. It may. There's videos on YouTube, but it may
Yeah.
totally suck to deal. I don't know. If you have dealt sick bow, please comment down below. I want to know. I want to know if
Yeah.
the game is actually any fun to deal.
All you people out in Singapore, what is it? Mandalay Bay or something?
Over in
Marina Bay.
Singapore, I believe they have it over in the Caribbean type areas too. They probably have it on like I don't know where else. They just don't have it here. I wonder if Vegas has it. Let's see. Let's Google.
Where can I play sick bow? For those of you wondering, sick bow, from what I can understand, is what would happen if craps and roulette had a baby.
It says the Venetian has sick bow.
Mm.
It says, yep, it's there. Yep.
It's a game played with dice, but you're betting on the outcomes, kind of like roulette, where you're gonna bet. Oh,
Yep.
you know.
There's a bet for literally every possible combination.
Yep.
Which is crazy. Um.
But you don't get to roll the dice. Sorry.
Yep. Sorry.
Push a button. Boop.
Boop. Okay. So, when it comes to these games, what would you say is a good way? And we can actually start with blackjack for somebody who wants to like learn blackjack. And I guess we're kind of going along the lines of it wasn't necessarily what I was going for, like on your own, but we'll kind of go with that. If you want to be a blackjack dealer and you want to get ready for an audition, but you have nowhere to like go to a school. Because I do believe you can learn blackjack on your own, along with baccarat. What would be key things that somebody needs to do in practice to be able to efficiently deal blackjack?
Ooh. See, that's hard because I mean, if you had all the tools, like, yeah, if you had a shoe, um,
Yeah, let's just say
and
assuming they have a
some sort
shoe.
of a layout and some cards, um, it- it's funny because I could say something and then it could be completely different. If you were auditioning with me, I would look for neatness, number one. Um,
More so than
so,
actually being able to read what the hand is.
I mean, yeah, of course you have to be able to read what the hand is, but that's going to come in time. Um, I'm not looking for lightning quick. I want neatness, and with neatness comes speed. So I want to make sure I can read your game. Your pips are showing. You're hitting your hands correctly. You're staying correctly. You realize when you've busted, uh, and you can pay your bets correctly. I want to see sizing into the bets. I want to see your check cutting is good, and you can pay blackjacks. You should be able to. I mean, side bets we can work on because some places have different side bets. It's probably going to be lucky, but that's the biggest thing I think for me. But see, but I'm old school, and I think
Well,
game neatness matters. There
so
should be
what
some sort of
you're giving
finesse
me
in there.
what you want to see, but I was asking more of like what can they do
Mm.
to get better?
Oh, practice, 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 practice. So what I used to have my dealers do is take a deck, just take a deck and start pulling cards off in a pile. And then you're like, 10, 2, 5, and you have 17, put it off to the right. 10, 10, 20, put it off to the right. 5, 7, 10, you busted, put it off to the left. Just start hitting your hands like that so that instantly if you're hitting or staying, busted or made a hand. Um,
Yeah.
Check cutting, just practice it. You should be sizing into bets, they want to see that. And then blackjack, if you're practicing for an audition, obviously you should have some chips. Um, you should be just set up like 6 bets and pay a blackjack on each one of them.
Yeah. And in this day and age, you should know how to pay 3-2 and 6-5. For players that are listening, yes, we know 6-5 is terrible, but it's here to stay, unfortunately. And so yeah, a dealer, you need to know both. You need to know how to pay 3-2 and 6-5.
And there are tricks for it. Like 6-5 is one color down. So for every red they get a white, for every green they get a red. So
With the exception of a black
yeah,
or
because
a
you have to
100 chip.
yeah, because you have to look at a black as 4 green, right? So four green gets 4 red, so you're at 120.
It's
But
so
yeah,
weird. Slight tangent, just because of talking about the colors. Every video I've seen of like gambling stuff on YouTube, whatever, the fives and the 25s are always red and green, literally everywhere.
hmm.
But the dollars and the hundreds and above hundreds are just random. They could be completely different everywhere I've seen. I'm just like, that's so weird.
But I think it helps not to bring them property to property, even though if you're a good dealer, you should be able to tell. But
Yeah.
people have been able to sneak $5 chips in from other casinos,
Yeah.
$25 chips. So
Not long ago, caught somebody bringing in some cardroom chips from one of our local card rooms. And they were asking, can I change these in here? Doesn't work that way, folks. Chips
I
from
will say though,
one property do not transfer to another property.
you should still practice neatness. Okay, it's very important.
Yeah.
Finesse. You want finesse. You want to go into your
Being
audition and you're hitting all your hands correctly, but your cards are everywhere and you're sloppy and
yeah.
take pride in your game.
All of it does matter. And I would say, before you do an audition, I would even have, videotape yourself if you can, watch it back, and then kind of compare it to some stuff you might see on YouTube. I'm not saying that people on YouTube are that great, but they're going to be better than somebody who's never done it before or is starting out. So kind of compare and make sure, yeah, you're able to do both. You want to be neat, you want to be clean, and you want to make sure you know how to pay your blackjacks. There's multiple
Don't go
ways.
fast. Do
Yeah,
not go fast in the
yeah,
beginning. It's not expected of you, nor would I want you to.
yeah.
Take your time, be neat, and make sure you are correct in everything. Well, you're not going to be correct in everything you do, but correct in what you're doing.
Yeah,
Like
this
you're trying
ain't
to
the
go too
60s
fast.
where speed was a matter of you keeping a job or not. It doesn't matter. Just,
But even then, with neatness comes speed. Like if you looked at me and one of our other dealers who tries to deal as fast as lightning, even though I don't deal as fast as him, I could probably deal more hands per hour because my game is neat. When I pick up everything, I pick it up quickly because it's all exactly where it needs to be. When I hit a hand, like I'm not chasing cards around and I'm not smashing everything together and it's flying everywhere. So a lot of times speed is does not increase your hand speeds.
yeah.
Some of the dealers that dealt the most hands per hour that I know, you wouldn't look at them and think they were fast.
Yep. That is very true because, it's like you say, because I've seen plenty of dealers who are very fast, but they make one to two, like, not necessarily like a mistake, but like something where they have to like adjust something like every other hand, and that's just added time versus somebody who doesn't deal as fast, but they never have
It,
to make any adjustments.
and you do make mistakes when you're going too fast too, and
Yep.
so that's something you do not want to do in your audition.
Yep. Depending on the mistake, you might be given a pass on certain things. So, but yeah,
Yeah, nerves happen. Don't beat yourself up.
any good person who is auditioning you is going to be able to identify if your mistake is like a very crucial mistake versus something where they can just tell you're nervous. So,
Even then, audition is to make sure you know how to deal. You know, because when I audition somebody, I could tell instantly whether or not they were a dealer before or not, or whether or not they know how to deal cards or not. Not anybody can just walk off the street and deal blackjack. So
yeah, that's why it was very interesting when I had to evaluate a dealer not long ago that very clearly you could just watch this person deal. Oh, yeah, they were absolutely a dealer.
mhm.
Yet for some reason they couldn't pay a blackjack to save their life.
But that's something you can work on.
Yeah,
But
some you can work on, and I mean, I personally have not seen this dealer deal. I have not watched them since, but I know they're working. So I mean, I can only assume that they've fixed that problem, and they're probably good to go because that was the only issue that I saw. So versus some people that I don't know if you remember. I'm not gonna say his name, but we had the guy. You remember when we first opened? We had a cardroom dealer guy or open the property that we're currently at. Cardroom dealer guy that it was the sloppiest dealer I think I've ever seen in my life. He drove like an hour plus away every day to come to work. He ended up losing his
I,
job because he came to
is
work
that the one
after
that?
after
Okay, it
hours.
is that one. Okay, yeah.
It's just like, how does what? You don't want to be one of these people that everyone's just like, that's a terrible dealer. Because some places
I
might
was.
might pass you on auditions even if you are very sloppy, unfortunately. But you don't want to be one of those people.
You do not. That's why I said I take it very seriously. And I was trained by a perfectionist, and he used to always tell us, "You're dealing for the camera. Like everything needs to be seen, and you should respect the game, and you should have a love for the game. There used to be a lot of prestige in being a dealer. I don't think there's as much as there used to be, but
Oh yeah, no.
there was a line of people waiting to replace you. Everybody wanted to be a dealer, but you needed to take pride and deal a clean game. And I will say, because you were talking about the lady who couldn't pay the blackjack, if you're going to audition and you're going to work on things, find something that works for you. There's more than one way to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're struggling and you have a $65 bet and you can't think of what half of 65 is, because I can't, um, like I could not tell you right now what a $65 blackjack, what the total would be when you pay it. And a lot of people get stuck on that. They're like, oh, it's 100 and whatever. break it out in units. You know, that's how I know how to pay a blackjack. I don't know what a $65 blackjack pays 3 to 2, but I will pay it correctly every time because I know, you know, 2 green chips pays 3 green chips, and X amount of red chips pays X amount of red chips, and blah, blah, you know, so you could pay it that way. Some
Yep.
people you might be able to multiply 65 by 1.5, and that works for you. But
Yeah, and the
find the
way
way it
I
works
do
for
it
you.
is for 65, I'm going to do 60 and then I'm going to do 5 and then I'll just add it together.
Hmm.
Because 60 is obviously 90 and 5 is 7.5. So you just add it, boom, you're done.
Yeah. See, I struggled with the math part when I first became a dealer, and so my director who trained me said, just do it in units. You know what a green chip pays. You know what a red chip pays. Like break it out. 2 green chips pays 3 green chips. Oh, that's easy.
And this
You know,
comes
we're
back to what you were talking about with speed does not matter. It's about being
hmm
correct and looking clean doing it. The speed doesn't matter. However, you can come up with the answer, do what works for you. That
yeah,
that's the important part.
yeah. If you're learning to deal and you're struggling with something, look for a different way to do it because there's going to be one somewhere out there. You know.
Hmm. A lot of people, I've seen and heard plenty of people talk about how they're like, oh, I can never be a dealer because the math's too hard. Or, there's just too much thinking involved in this, this and that and whatever. And just from my experience or from what I've seen and over the years of all the people I've interacted with, I feel like that is the one thing that shouldn't keep anybody from being a dealer. If anything, the things that are that can keep people from being a good dealer really is gonna come down to personality and things like that. I think at the end of the day, as to whether or not you can handle dealing to people, but when it comes to doing, just especially blackjack, I think anybody can do it.
Mhm.
Anybody can do it. It's just a matter if they want to.
Well, I always laugh because the players when I hit out a long hand, and they're like, and then I'm like, oh, 19. They're like, man, I can't add that fast, and I can't either. I just recognize combinations of cards, and eventually every dealer will get to that point. In the beginning, you're going to be like, 2 plus 3 plus 5, but once you start doing it, you just hit out, 5 cards, and you're like, oh, that's 19. Because you just recognize the combinations. You learn how to combine numbers in your head. So you'll have a 4 and a 3, and you'll just see that as a 7, and you'll have a 6 and an 8, 6, 7, 8, 21. Boom,
Yep. I know, like when I first
It's just,
started, I called out every hand, or everything that players hitting. Like let's just say it was a shoe game, everything was was face up on a shoe game. So I would literally just adding it. Okay, they have 12 and they hit like an ace. I'm like, okay, 13. They hit another hit a 2, 15. So I always know what they have, and I would do that with my own hand. You know, it helped
that's
me.
another reason.
I don't
It's another reason to get your cards out and start just hitting out hands.
know. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would say another thing is very, 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 very important is you should even go through and I used to have them take out the tens, or at least some of the tens, uh, because you're going to hit a string of small cards, but you want to practice aces. Aces trip people up so much,
Oh yeah.
and I always explain to people an ace is always one until you get to 8, and so you need to learn that in your head. You need to always count your aces one until you get to 8. So you got to hit out. Sometimes I hit 2 or 3 cards before I catch that ace, and I'm like, you know,
So, when I went through my dealer school many years ago, we would have to practice. They had a special 8 deck shoe that had 0 tens in it in the
yeah,
training room, and it was
take out
just,
the tens.
and they replaced all the tens with aces, and so it was just tons of aces, and we would sit there for like 15, 20 minutes every class and just pull cards, just keep pulling cards. Because yeah, and then we also had to memorize every 3 card combination to make 21 as well with no tens, you know. And these are things that, small things that could help.
Yeah.
Because like you said,
Well,
yeah,
another thing is, people familiar with playing blackjack will tell you, oh, an ace is 1 or 11. That's never the case for a dealer. There is no or. For the dealer, the ace is either 1 or an 11. Like, you're not going to choose, you know? So, like a soft 17 for some people, they're like, oh, I have 7 or 17. As a dealer, you have a 7. Like, that's just the way it is. So,
unless your table says don't hit.
you're gonna okay, fine. We have
We
one,
have
I
some of
think,
those
like
on our
that, but
property, so
one. But like I'm saying, it's for the dealers, there's usually not an or.
that's what I was
You
gonna
know,
say. An ace five is it's a six.
yeah, and it should be that way for the players, but for a lot of people, it's not. Um, so, but yeah, for the dealer, your ace is always one until you get to 8. There's no 1 or 11.
Yep, I agree. There was something that this is backtracking slightly. I still kind of on the same topic, and I just wanted to bring this up. It's not necessarily related to getting somebody prepared to audition for a blackjack or something like that. When it came to check cutting, and this is something that I had been seeing online pretty recently, although I'm sure it's been a thing for a while now. Um, it's very common, I've noticed, where dealers don't proof their payouts with running their finger across the chips. And, like, when you're sizing into a bet. And I guess this is what I have seen on my very thorough research is that a lot of properties don't require dealers to do that anymore because they have cameras, so they don't require dealers to do it. Which I think,
Sizing into their chips.
like if somebody just has like a stack of red and then they just bump into a stack of red or something like that, they just bring out the amount and just set it next to it.
It doesn't save you any time, especially if you bust. Pick up a stack of red and go. Like, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't save you any time, and
Because
it's
I've
just
seen it's most common when it's like 5 chips or less, where they just bring out 5 chips and just put it right next to the bet. And I'm seeing this like Vegas dealers. I'm seeing this on so many videos. Um, and that's why I was like, why do they do that? And I, from what I've been seeing is and reading is that it's because the reason why dealers in the past have always had to run their finger across is for the cameras, or so the surveillance could see and all this kind of stuff. But they're saying now because it's so good and because the camera and surveillance is so good, they don't need the dealer to do that, so they can see. Um,
I
but
I
to me, that's
suppose,
I,
but
I I get it, I guess, from a certain standpoint, but at the same time, like as a dealer, I would want to make sure I'm correct. You know what I mean? Because if I'm just bringing out some chips and just putting it right next to it, like, what if I'm off by 1 or 2 chips? I don't know. It might be.
plus I feel like that's operating under the assumption that there's one person with one camera watching every dealer, which is not the case. So
Yeah.
you also want to be cutting in for your floors.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And then, in reference to
I don't
you
know.
being like, if you bust and just sizing into all the bets, right? I literally have
Yeah.
seen videos where they're drop cutting every, like a craps dealer, I guess. They're just dropping chips.
See, and you know what? Drop cutting is hard. Like I learned, I mean, it probably isn't if once you do it for a while, but it's not an exact science, and it's taken me some time to learn. And I don't know, cutting into the chips is just so easy. It's just that I don't know why people. I just think it's lazy, bad dealing.
Ooh. And then another thing, in regards to check cutting, comments down below for any current dealers. I'm curious. Um, when you cut checks, what is the proper way? Index finger or thumb?
Mm. For blackjack and table games, finger, no thumb cutting, never thumb cut. Poker dealers, thumb cut.
And why is that?
You know what? I don't know. I never really thought about it, but I know table games you're using house money, so you really want to prove it. Um, but poker dealers, I feel like it's just fast. And I don't know.
I
Plus,
just bring it up
there's
because
not as much room to work with.
I just bring it up
You're not working.
because the way that I've been trained obviously was always index finger all the
Yeah.
time, no matter what. It was very strict to never use your thumb, to never thumb cut.
Mhm.
Um, and I know a decent amount of dealers who do thumb cut, and I've told them not
Really?
to do it. And they're
They
like,
must have been poke.
and they're just like, but it's faster. And I'm like, well, and then they've asked me
Um,
why not thumb cut? And the only thing that I can think of is when you're thumb cutting is you can't properly prove across that all of the stacks are the same size. I'm guessing, but I still feel like even if you are thumb cutting, you still are running your thumb across. I don't really know. I'm just going based off of how I've been doing it for for over a decade. So it's like I don't know. It's just so ingrained into me that it's index finger. I see you looking down.
I wonder if it.
Are you literally moving?
Um. No, I was answering somebody. I'm wondering if it has anything to do with palming the chips, like, because you're cutting. But I feel like you're cutting away from your stack, right?
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
that's how you would cut it, And when I've watched dealers do it that way, there's got to be a reason why. I can Google it later. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, we've given some pretty good insight, I think, on the earlier stuff of this episode, and then we, kind of been recently talking about like how to improve on being, learning how to deal blackjack. We've talked about the things that for, if you want to be a blackjack dealer, what to work on, how to practice, and what things that you should really be focusing on when you go in for an audition. And then what other two games you probably should learn that you can learn on your own, and if you want to go ahead and do it, which is baccarat. And if you do know poker hands, pai gow poker as well. Um, but I would definitely say baccarat first. It's just baccarat's very easy for non-commission at least. And even then, commission is not really that hard, but it is just an extra added element, and generally that's saved for high limit rooms. Um, yeah, we're at about an hour and 20 minutes so far. Anything you want to bring up for our first episode?
Uh, Interestingly, hour 20. That's about how long you're going to expect to stay on a table. So,
Yeah, it's kind of like the new
get
industry standard. So,
get your brain used to that.
yep, used to be an hour when I started,
Yeah.
and then they were like,
When I
"Let's make it."
started, it was 40 minutes. An hour was unheard of. You'd be looking around like, oh, this floor forgot me, and they're going to hear about it. Yeah. Oh, um, when I left my first property and got to the new casino, and they told me it was an hour, I was like, what? I'm doing what? And then they went hour 20, and I was like, that's insane. Did I mute myself?
No, but you
Oh,
sent a message in the chat.
did I?
Yes, you sent a plus
Oh,
sign.
because I was spinning my pen and it like I flung it like I just did. Man, I did so good not talking about other casinos, and then I just dropped the ball at the very last
That's all
second.
right. There's only two spots I gotta just edit out. It's not that big of a deal. Um,
Oh, did I say a casino name?
no, you mentioned my name,
Oh, yeah.
which in future episodes will probably reveal what our names are anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But just for now. Um, yeah, I don't really
Okay,
have
so
anything else to bring up for this episode.
mhm.
That's why I was asking if there's anything else you wanted to bring up that maybe kind of goes along the lines of what we've talked about so far today,
Oh, just recap.
if you want to, or anything you
Prac-
want to add.
oh no, I just think if you want to be a dealer, it's practice. Um, and I don't think people understand the time it takes. So I don't. How long did you go to class? 6 weeks, maybe.
7.5.
Yeah, I only went for 2 weeks, but it was also 9 hour or 8 hour days. So
Okay,
it would
yeah.
probably be, and you guys went for what, 3 hours?
Yeah, so
So
mine was 7.5 for about 3 hours, 3 to 3.5.
yeah,
And Fridays were optional. But I did go Fridays, and I technically finished early, so I learned other games as well. Um, but it was technically a total of like 7.5 weeks. Yeah.
yeah, we did 2 full weeks, and then we auditioned somewhere in the third week. But we went 8.5 hours a day, 5 days a week. So it'd probably be the equivalent, of 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, because that's a little more than
So,
double. So,
mhm. And that's with somebody training you and helping you and guiding you each step of the way. So if you are trying to learn by yourself, don't beat yourself up. it's not, and don't think this is something that you should know in a week because it won't happen.
Yeah. And should probably also say too, like if you're learning on your own, I would not learn how to pitch. I would just do shoe only work on shoe, because pitching properly, you do need somebody to like be there to make sure you're doing it right. Because to me, there's a right way to pitch, and when you do it incorrectly, not only does it look bad, but it's also going to be worse for you. You can over time hurt yourself, tire yourself out significantly faster, and
And hurt your wrist.
yep. Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, you can injure yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, you're more prone to just make mistakes and look really sloppy. Um, and yeah, and a lot of places don't have pitch or don't require pitch, so pulling out of a
Make
shoe.
sure you know a proper shuffle too, because I know before going into table games, there's the weird shuffle with the bridge that I can't even do anymore. But that's how people used to shuffle back in the day. It's not how you shuffle as a dealer.
Oh yeah, I guess we probably should have mentioned that too. Like dealer shuffle is nothing like you
Make sure.
see. Don't look at like what magicians do or anything like that. A dealer shuffle is like the most basic thing ever. It's not fancy. It doesn't look cool. It's just a nice, clean, simple
Thumbs.
riffle. I
That's it.
always tell
Thumbs up.
people to make like the V of the half deck, or whatever, if you're doing like a single deck part. Just the half deck, nice quick riffle. Boom, you're done. You know, just box it up and that's it. Yeah, definitely no bridging cards. This isn't a
Yeah.
house game of Go Fish.
Yeah, that was another one. Practice your shuffle.
Yeah. And otherwise, yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. What else did we talk about?
Well, before all of that,
Oh,
we were it was still more related to like new dealer stuff, is identifying and what to do about having
yeah.
drunk players, aggressive players, um, you
Protect
know,
yourself.
protect yourself
Protect yourself.
so you
Don't
don't
let them
wreck
raise money.
yourself. Yeah. You know, and then yeah, like we've talked about, like, and then early
Don't
on,
let people. Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, like in the beginning of the episode, we're talking about like from players' perspectives of like what kind of player a dealer um players like to play with, and like what kind of outcomes and how that's going to affect enjoyment and stuff. Like, so as a dealer, that means you should want to be the dealer that people want to play with.
Mhm.
So personality does matter. Um,
And as a player, do not shoot the messenger.
yep,
The dealer's just doing their job. They have no control over the outcome. You
yep.
know,
They're,
you knew the odds when you sat down. So,
dealers don't cheat, and all dealers want you to win. Um, because if you don't win, they're not winning, right?
actually, when I was trained, the director who trained me told me, "You're not a real dealer if you don't want to win." And I was like, "That's not true. Like, they have to win so they can tip you." And he's like, "Well, yeah, but once they're done, you want to win that money back. Like, every dealer wants to win deep down inside." And I realized for me that was kind of true. Like, yeah, I would give them a bunch of money and then they would tip me, and then like something in me would be like, "Well, I want to win it back now. Like, I want to win." you know. So that was like way back when I first started.
I was
Now
gonna
I
say
don't
I've
care.
never been that way.
Yeah, now I don't care. But that was back when I first started and they sweated the money. If your table was down, they'd be like, "Oh, your table is down so much money." Blah, blah, blah. So, it was built in me that I wanted to win. I wanted my table to be up money, and I wanted to be a winner.
If you ever
Now I don't.
hear your superiors talking about your table's down, you've been dumping all this, who cares? As
hmm
long as you haven't been making any mistakes, it does not matter.
For every table that's down, there's 10 that are up.
Yep,
So,
exactly. It just doesn't matter.
but I started at a very small casino where we had,
Oh,
you
so
know,
that's
we
probably why you were on 40s.
hmm well, we had like 14 tables, I think, two pits, so 14 and one. But um, one table getting killed there made a difference. So they wanted you to win.
All right. I think that's going to do it for episode number 1. Um, please leave any comments down below in the comment section. If there's any other topics you guys would like to hear us discuss or address, we, because as for this episode and for future episodes already planned, have, a bunch of topics that we've kind of just like, I've asked ChatGPT, common things that are searched and things like that. But yeah, that's why comments down below so we know what you guys want to listen to and understand and hear from, so we can kind of curate content.
Ask questions, guys. Ask questions. We're here to answer them.
Yep. Without further ado, we are out. All right. Peace.